Hello, and welcome to the Mid-Ohio Valley Public Forum video podcast. I'm Jennifer Bryant.
And I'm Kim Van Ryn.
And we're joined today by Natalie Tennant, who served our state for 8 years as the Secretary of State.
Natalie's going to give us some information that you may need if you are voting in this election. There are a few things you need to know, you may not know. So Natalie's going to cover that for us.
So we know that this is different. This is the first year most of us, or probably all of us, have ever voted during a pandemic. What do you think voters need to know?
There's a lot. So, stop me if you want me to explain a little bit more. First and foremost, what I'm concerned about is getting people registered to vote. And if you're watching this after October 13th, listen to the information, maybe, and help others, and you're not registered, because October 13th is the deadline to register to vote. And it's of particular concern for me because of this pandemic. We saw in the general election, there were reports from Virginia, even all over the country, that voter registration is down. Well, it makes sense because people aren't out having rallies, they're not having voter registration drives, as many, and they're not having assemblies at high schools to register those students. So that's why I asked folks to go to govotewv.com. It was a website that I put in place about 5 years ago. It has a lot of information on it to be able to get registered to vote, to find out information. So October 13th is your deadline. So that's the first step. If you're not registered, then when we talk about absentee voting and early voting and same day or the going to the polls, doesn't help very much. It may help you to help your family, but get registered before October 13th.
Okay.
So then, for those who have registered to vote, they have several choices coming up. There's the absentee, there's early voting, and then of course the very last day to vote.
Yeah. And so this is like the next step. So we took care of the voter registration. You're now registered to vote. What are you going to do with that? Well, you're going to go vote, but what's your plan? And I think that's, we're all hearing that. We're seeing that on social media. We say, like, get a plan to vote. Well, what does that really mean? Like, I asked my brother and sister-in-law yesterday, I'm like, what's the process? Because I don't say, how you going to vote? Because they think, well, am I going to vote for you, Natalie? It's, what's your process for voting? Well, I'm going to the polls. Okay, that works. And I believe that they will make it to the polls. My sister-in-law is a teacher, so she won't be working that day. My brother is a contractor, so he may or may not be working that day. So they have a plan. But I have nephews who are like linemen. Can we plan? Do we know if there's going to be a storm between October 21st and November 3rd? There certainly could be. We had it in 2012 with Superstorm Sandy. So I'm trying to get them to plan and say, here's your opportunity to get an absentee ballot sent to you. And here's your application. I printed out the applications. I put the envelopes on my dad's table, as kind of like a center gathering place. Here's the address to the Marion County Clerk's office to send this out when you're ready to send it out. That's a plan. Like, and if you think, okay, I'm not gonna to get an absentee ballot, well, then your plan is between October 21st and October 31st, go vote. There's a couple Saturdays in there, but people work on Saturdays too. Like, don't wait till the 31st. Just go and do it, like, during that early voting period. If you want to vote in person, you have all that right to vote in person, or go on election day, November 3rd. But don't just, I just think if we've learned anything through COVID, like, we all were looking forward to my daughter's final performance in theater in high school, or we were looking forward to graduation and prom. Did we get any of that? No. So that's the thing. Don't just be looking forward to November 3rd. Like, this COVID has it's strong. It's rocked us a little bit. So just don't think that you can do what you've always done before. I mean, take advantage of early absentee voting by mail, the early voting in person. So how do you get that ballot? I'm upset that the Secretary of State has stopped application from being automatically sent to you like it was in the primary election. He called it a moral obligation then. It still should be a moral obligation now. So find that application. Go votewv.com. You can print out an application. You can call your county clerk and have it sent to you. There is an online portal. Now, I am skeptical, that's not the word, of the online, I question the online portal. Let's get the
Skeptical.
right. What am I?
Skeptical.
Skeptical, that's it. Skeptical of it, because I know my husband still hasn't been able to ask for his through that portal. So find that application any way you can. Call your county clerk. They will help you. And that their numbers are on that govotewv.com. So get that application, and that becomes part of your plan. Okay, and then, you guys have any other questions? Because I have something else to say, but go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I have a question.
Go ahead, Kim.
Let's say you have requested an absentee ballot. There has been a lot of talk about mail-in ballots and how many of them are being disallowed and disqualified. And so let's say you've requested one and you decide, no, I'd rather go vote in person to make sure my vote gets counted. What can you do in that situation?
Here's what you do if you've asked for your ballot. Actually, there's a couple things, and this is what I was looking. I was paying attention. I just want to show you a picture when I can. So you've asked for your ballot. There's a couple things that you've done. You've asked for your ballot. It's come to you, right? You said that. It's in your hand. You can vote it, put it back in the 2 envelopes. Remember, there's the ballot, there's a privacy envelope, and then there's the mailing envelope, and you put that inside of there and sign on the back. Please make sure you sign on the back. You can mail it, is one option. It's prepaid. The second option is you can take it to the county clerk's office, go inside the courthouse, which has become difficult because some courthouses have closed, like Wyoming County's is closed. Harrison County was closed. That concerns people. I wanted us, the state of West Virginia, to have drop boxes. And I know that there was a back and forth. There should be drop boxes. Does it specifically say or ask for it in code? Not specifically, but we are in a state of emergency and we are in a pandemic, and you have the ability as Secretary of State to have emergency rules put in place. And this secretary refuses to put those in place for Dropbox. So there's some improvisation, innovation going on. And I hope that you all can see this. Can you see that? It's a picture. Do you see what that says right there?
No.
It said drop. Dang, it's like white, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This is a picture, but you can see a person, you can see outside, you can see a tent, 2 people sitting there. That says ballot drop here. This is Harrison County. This is on the plaza outside the courthouse. Remember, Harrison County Courthouse was closed last week, or and so what they've done is people still want to get that ballot. And the question, Kim, that you're talking about, there's all this talk. They feel like if they put that ballot in these double locked boxes, that they are safe. They're not true secure drop boxes, but they're ballot boxes in which 2 employees from the county clerk's office sit there and welcome you. And maybe they've even taken some names. I don't know if they've taken names or not, but you can drop your, so there's a lot of improvisation going on. And that's one of them, because their courthouse was closed and they had to do that. The assessor on some days has a tent over on the other side of the plaza to take all of the documents that are needed there. Okay. That's dropping the ballot off. So now you want to go vote in person. I think that was your original question, wasn't it?
Yeah, what if you
want to
have
go
the
vote
ballot, but you want to go vote in person instead of filling out the ballot and mailing it in or dropping it
Okay.
Yeah.
You can do that too. Just take your, yes, you can do that either during early voting, but make sure you have that ballot. If you don't have the ballot with you to hand off, then you'll have to vote a provisional ballot, because those ballots have to be accounted for. And here's the example. When you go to, so you can either hand it off and it's accounted for, whether it's spoiled or soiled, and then you go and get a new ballot and you're voted. If you don't have it, it'll be a provisional ballot and it won't be counted until about a week later during canvassing. And what they do is they double check and say, well, this person said they didn't have their ballot with them. Did that ballot get mailed in? And if it didn't, then that provisional should count. It should count. If it did come back in, then it's like, wait a minute, you voted twice here. We have the ballot that you mailed in the ballot. So that takes another different route. But the reason that you take that ballot in, even if you voted it, so I saw this in Kanawha County, 4 people's votes did not count because they took their voted ballots, already voted, into the polling place, their normal precinct, and handed it to the poll worker. And the poll worker was like, oh, okay. The poll worker probably thought they were doing a good job. Like, okay, I'll take your ballot. Thank you. That ballot didn't count. And it didn't count because it would have been an extra ballot somewhere here without on the poll book having a human being marked off. Does that make sense? If you come in and you have this marked, you have to vote you have to vote again if you're in person, because then that puts a ballot number, a ballot being used to a person being here. Where this extra ballot is like, where did this come from? I mean, we know it's a legit ballot, but now we have 51 ballots and there's only 50 people counted, 50 people marked off the list. Does that make sense? Do I have to try to explain it another way?
No.
That's why you have to, it's not, you think, oh, well, I just gave it to the poll worker, it should count. But no, we don't know the numbers, they have to match up.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
So if you have, go ahead.
I know there have been a lot of questions too about, what you can wear into the polls if you decide whether to early vote or to vote on election day. There are rules against.
Yeah, isn't that, there are. And that always puts poll workers in a bad situation. Like there are some strong poll workers are like, you can't have that hat on. You have a button on, please take the button off. Like those are simple things. And sometimes people have t-shirts on. It's like, you cannot have a t-shirt on that says Natalie Tennant for Secretary of State when you go to the polling place, because then that becomes considered, you're inside there maybe trying to campaign. You can zip up your shirt, or they'll ask you to turn it inside out and then come back in. So those are things that are truly asked, and yes, that they can ask you to do that because that's part of election code. That help?
Yes, but I do still have a question about apparel at the polls. Is it any political expression at all banned on the clothing?
I know what you're going to say. I know why. Are you asking because if something just says MAGA, M-A-G-A, is that allowed in there? I think that they would, it's associated with a candidate. So I think that you could probably be asked to take it off. I think I remember when Obama was running, did we have some of those, like someone might've had a "Yes, we can" something, t-shirt or hat, and they were asked to remove it too. Sometimes it comes down to the confidence of a poll worker. We ask a lot of poll workers, lots of the poll workers, and you have to have the confidence to tell someone, please take that off. Please do this. I mean, we're going to see this with masks. I don't think that they're going to be able to say, you don't have a mask on, you can't vote. But what should be in place, what preparation should be made is there is curbside voting. There is a requirement from the ADA, Americans with Disability Act, that you have to provide curbside voting if someone is not able to get out of their car and come inside. Now, would that be used because someone doesn't want to wear a mask? That could be looked into a little bit more. I mean, these were things that I talked about in March and April that we needed to be preparing for and considering. And I don't think it's been done. Now we're 3 weeks away. So.
Now, what about if it's an issue-based slogan? Like, something about the environment or women's rights or anything like that that's a political issue, is that banned? Is that off limits?
Now you're getting, I can't,
I'm asking the hard ones now.
I know, I can't fully answer that. It's in code, but I don't know the top, off the top of my head. Because there are trigger words like vote for or support that become advocacy versus communication, all these different things. So you're stretching me a little bit and you're stretching my memory. So I don't want to say something that might not be correct. And somebody say, oh, I saw Natalie say that. But so I don't have a code book in front of me, so I can't really fully answer that question.
It seems like the answer would be to all of this is if you have any question at all, don't wear it because
Right.
you want your
Right.
vote to be counted.
And then go 300 feet away and go on a corner, hold up your sign, honk and wave. Just don't do it within that perimeter.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the best. And voters have responsibilities and voters have rights too. And that's some of the responsibility. Like voters have a responsibility to make sure that the elections are run smoothly too. And part of that responsibility is if you see something, you better tell somebody, either a poll worker or a county clerk, or call the Secretary of State's office, call and tell people what you are seeing. Then that's a responsibility. It's a responsibility to help things to run smoothly too. I mean, don't get in the way. If you know that you're not supposed to be within the parameters of 300 feet, then don't do it. Okay, get outside of it and cause your little maybe opposition or pro or helping someone. And then also the rights of voters. Like folks need to remember that if you are standing in line, now we're talking, I've skipped ahead clear to November 3rd, but if you're standing in line on election day and it's 7:30 p.m., you still have that right to vote because you're anticipating and you're ready to vote. So make sure that you have that right. I need to review some of those other rights that we always talk about. Have your identification prepared. There, if someone knows you who's a poll worker, that's part of our law that says, they can say, yes, I know this person. But take your voter registration card. You're a registered voter, that card counts. Take your debit card, take any, you don't necessarily have to have a photo ID, but you do have to be prepared to present something. If not, I think it may be a provisional ballot that you'll have to vote.
Well, good. I think that's a lot of information, and I'm sure that the voters will appreciate it. I know I do. I appreciate your time today. If there's anything else you think we missed that you think we need to highlight, then I'll let you have that time. Otherwise, we will hopefully celebrate with you after November 3rd.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything. You got to just get registered. You got to start. You got to get you have to do. I mean, I'm really worried about COVID. I am so worried because, as a statewide, it's like, oh, we're doing this, we're going back to school. But then when you dig a little deeper, just scratch the surface a hair, all these schools that are closing, all of them that have, one or two cases, and what's that going to do to our community as we get closer? I'm just worried that people like my brother and sister-in-law, wow, we're going to the polls. Well, what if you are so sick that you just can't, and you feel like you don't want to, you've missed your opportunity to send in an absentee ballot. Natalie's going to get there and drive you there and push you out the car and go vote for me. That's what I'm going to do. So yeah, just be prepared. With that being said, I'll be full disclosure here. I don't have my ballot yet either. I always like to go and see how the election is being run, either in early voting or on election day. By going in there.
Well, thanks everybody. Stay safe, wash your hands.
Yep.